Today is Thursday, February 16th. We'll tell you about more unusual weather that brought snow to the desert and today could bring tornadoes to the south. Also, how in the aftermath of a devastating earthquake, some people survived for more than a week under rubble. Plus, what's being hyped as a possible solution to an overdose crisis, which social media platform is becoming more marijuana-friendly, and why even the federal government says it's time to update your iPhone. Those stories and more coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Millions of Americans are on alert for severe weather today. For people in the South, that means strong winds, large hail, and possible tornadoes. The National Weather Service says the most at-risk areas include eastern Mississippi and western Alabama. Some schools in that part of the country have even closed today as a precaution. Although there's a possibility of severe storms for an even wider swath of the country, from southern Louisiana to Ohio. This is actually the same storm system that brought a rare burst of snow to the desert Southwest earlier this week. Snowflakes were even seen in places like Las Vegas and Tucson, where winter weather is extremely rare. When the storm moved through Texas and Oklahoma, the biggest impact was the strong winds. And now it's on to the deep south. Eventually, the storms will move into Georgia and Florida tonight. But by then, they're expected to be a little weaker and not quite as dangerous. Unfortunately, we have news of another deadly shooting in a very public place. One person was killed and 3 others hurt in the food court of a shopping mall in El Paso, Texas. The scene is all too familiar. The mall where the shooting happened is just across the parking lot from a Walmart where 23 people were shot and killed in 2019. In this latest shooting, police have not released a lot of details yet, but they say 2 people are now in custody and there's no longer a danger to the public. Police say at least one of those suspects was in custody within minutes because of an off-duty officer who happened to be at the mall when the shooting started, and no one else had to get hurt when that arrest happened. Separately, a grand jury has just indicted the father of a suspected mass shooter. We're talking about the shooting last year at a 4th of July parade in a Chicago suburb. Prosecutors say the father was criminally reckless when he helped his son get a gun license years before the shooting, since his son had threatened violence in the past. If the father is convicted, he could face more than 20 years in prison. The son, charged with killing 7 people and hurting dozens more, is facing life in prison. Well, it's a pretty bleak outlook for the U.S. economy. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office put out its new 10-year projection. It says this year, the economy will barely grow at all. It expects the unemployment rate to jump to 5.1%, with inflation sticking around. Then the CBO says the economy will start to grow again in the future, especially as the Fed brings down interest rates once again. But some things will also suffer in 10 years. For example, it says the U.S. debt will nearly double to $46.4 trillion in 2033. In response, lawmakers pointed fingers at each other. Republicans blamed Democrats for spending too much during the Biden presidency, and Dems blamed the GOP for cutting taxes during the Trump presidency. Either way, it's important to note the American economy doesn't always behave as expected, and forecasts from the Federal Reserve are much more optimistic. To be continued. The scale of an international crisis is starting to become even more clear in the aftermath of powerful earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. The death toll is now up to more than 41,000 people, and millions are in need of humanitarian aid. Images shared widely show people trapped under rubble, families preparing funerals, and utter devastation and destruction. But there have also been signs of hope, if not miracles. Usually after a natural disaster, most rescues happen in the first 24 hours. But in Turkey, people have been rescued from huge piles of rubble even 9 days later. Most of them survived because they were able to get water even as they were trapped, and because they were able to make enough noise for rescuers to hear them. Just yesterday, Turkey's president promised search and rescue efforts would continue, and crews would not leave a single person under the rubble. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of tents have gone up for people whose homes were destroyed or deemed unsafe after the quake. Workers are also busy repairing infrastructure for electricity, plumbing, and communications. The United Nations and several countries have shipped in relief supplies, but they say much more is needed. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to travel to Turkey next week. A surprise resignation from the leader of Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon is the longest-serving First Minister with 8 years in that role. She's also the first woman to hold the position. But now she says, in my head and in my heart, this was the right time to step down. She called modern political discourse brutal, but says her decision is not about short-term pressures, that it's instead a deeper and longer-term assessment. Still, it comes at a critical time. Sturgeon has been a champion of the Scottish independence movement since it's part of the UK, and her party is holding a special conference next month to decide how to move forward on that. There's also been controversy over gender reforms and other issues. Regardless, Sturgeon said she would stay in her role until members of her Scottish National Party choose a new leader. Her resignation makes her the second high-profile leader to unexpectedly step down in the last month. The other was New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. More news is still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Indeed. All right, fellow business owners, if you enjoy getting these news highlights quickly, then check out Indeed to get the highlights you need to hire well. With Indeed Instant Match, you can instantly receive a list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. So if you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. In the minute I've been talking to you, 16 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you are a hiring team of one. Visit Indeed.com/newsworthy to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. A drug that can stop an overdose is one step closer to being made available without a prescription. An influential panel of health experts voted in favor of putting the nasal spray Narcan over the counter. Narcan is already the most commonly sold treatment for opioid overdoses. But the FDA says if it's made available without a prescription, way more people will be able to access it, which could save lives. Public health experts say this step is critical to end the overdose crisis that's killed more than 100,000 Americans in the past year. But one concern about making it over the counter is whether people with no medical training will be able to use the nasal spray safely and effectively in emergencies. Narcan has to be given as soon as an overdose is suspected, so it's crucial the instructions are simple. The drug maker says it's addressing those concerns with an easy-to-read label. The FDA will make a final decision about this drug in the next few weeks. It could be on store shelves by summer. So you may soon start seeing marijuana ads on your Twitter feed. Twitter became the first major social media platform to allow advertising from cannabis companies, at least in states where it's legal. Twitter says it makes sense since users are already tweeting about their experiences with marijuana, recommending brands, products, and stores. Still, there will be some ad restrictions, like companies won't be able to target users younger than 21 or make any claims about health benefits. Plus, Twitter will only accept cannabis advertisers that are licensed by the appropriate authorities. This is still considered a big step forward, since in the past, advertising platforms have been reluctant to serve an industry that's still illegal on the federal level. But now that Twitter has changed its policy, marijuana companies are expected to jump on it quickly. If you have an iPhone, iPad, or Mac, it's probably time for a software update. It comes just weeks after the last one, but this one is so crucial, even the Homeland Security Department put out an alert telling Apple users about this. This update is supposed to fix 2 security issues, one of which has been used in real-life cyber attacks already. Apple would not go into too many details, as not to tip off hackers even more, but it did say attackers can execute code to be able to access the data on someone's device. That is, unless they've completed this update. By the way, this software update does other things besides just make devices more secure. It also promises to improve crash detection on iPhone 14 models, and it brings fixes to iCloud settings and Siri requests. Hollywood is saying goodbye to a popular actress who rose to fame in the 1960s. Raquel Welch died yesterday at 82 years old after a brief illness. The New York Times describes her as the 60s' first major American sex symbol and said she kept that image up for half a century in show business. Welch starred in movies like 1,000,000 Years BC, Fantastic Voyage, and The Three Musketeers. She also performed on Broadway and had a one-woman show in Las Vegas, as well as her own jewelry, skincare, and wig lines. Now tributes are pouring in from other celebrities like Reese Witherspoon, Viola Davis, and even the Muppets. Legendary street artist Banksy came out with a new art installation this week, but it was dismantled just hours later. The piece called Valentine's Day Mascara was painted on a wall behind a freezer in the small English town of Margate. And it's pretty dark. It features a woman with a black eye and missing tooth pushing a man into the real freezer. It's believed to be referencing the problem of domestic violence. Well, soon after it went up, the town took the freezer away. A lot of people got upset about this, calling it overreach by their government at the expense of art that could draw tourists to their town, especially since previous Banksy works have sold for tens of millions of dollars. But the town's council says there were health and safety concerns, and the freezer will go back as soon as it's made safe. Either way, the art has its reach since Banksy posted photos of it online. As of this morning, his post on Instagram has been liked more than 1.6 million times. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, a word from our sponsor, ZocDoc. I love interacting with talented people, whether it's the people I work with here at The Newsworthy, shout out to our producers Emily and Aaron and our audio editor Baz, or it's simply the waiter who offers exceptional service, making a night out even more special. I always appreciate that feeling of ease and trust. But perhaps getting talent and quality from your doctors is one of the most important. And when you find the right doctor, you can feel it. You feel heard, you are put at ease, and you trust their advice. Well, ZocDoc can help you find the doctor that's truly right for you, which means finding quality care may only be a few taps away. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. Millions of people use ZocDoc's free app. So go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Thing to Know Thursday. TikTok trends come and go. And now it seems there's some pushback on the idea behind the hashtag TikTok made me buy it, which refers to products featured in viral videos that become more popular and see their sales skyrocket. Instead, the hashtag de-influencing is gaining some traction, as in TikTokers telling their followers what products not to buy despite some influencers promoting them. So they'll say what viral products they don't think are worth the money and urging them to hold off on impulse buys. Some are also advocating for more thoughtful shopping habits and less consumerism. But then again, some TikTokers now jumping on the de-influencing trend are pointing their followers to alternative products and ultimately still telling them to buy something. Some creators may still be getting kickbacks on those other products too. Either way, people keep searching their favorite app for what to buy. Audience research company GWI reported the number of people who look for products on social media has gone up by 43% since 2015. That said, GWI also found that Gen Zers are 12% less interested in social media influencers today than they were in 2020. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.